I guess better late than never for Jackson County. Good morning, 6:04. It's great to have you here on KCMO, as you just heard from John Anthony there in the top of the hour news. Jackson County 6 months late to passing a budget. Wow, I guess they got it done. I don't know. What do you say about the Jackson County legislature that gets around the passing of budget 6 months after they were supposed to do it? My gosh, you can't make it up with these guys. Unbelievable, but very much par for the course with how they seem to be operating in Jackson County, Missouri. So that happens yesterday, and something else that came out yesterday is the fact that this deadline we were given for the Chiefs and the Royals of like the end of June, they're going to decide where they're going to be. Well, Jackson County is not playing along in that game. Jackson County is saying, if you guys think you're going to be on a ballot sometime this year, fat chance. Oh, you mean the deadline that the Royals and Chiefs arbitrarily made up of late June was actually just that, their own preferred deadline? You mean the politicians actually, at least on the local level, were not going to play ball with their made-up deadline of June 30th? Wow, color me shocked.
Talk about a bombshell.
No, it's not shocking at all. We told you that so much of what the Chiefs and the Royals were pushing when it came to this June 30th deadline was really about making sure they got some concessions out of the state of Missouri before these star bonds expired on the Kansas side of the state line when it comes to their stadium and where they want to be and whether or not they can really pit Kansas against Missouri. They've done that wildly effectively over the last couple of weeks. They got Missouri to bite. They got Missouri to rush the special session and, of course, pass the state funding. At least it passed in the Senate. Now it goes to the House side this week, where the Missouri General Assembly is looking at this deal for the Chiefs and the Royals. That would be up to about $1.5 billion in incentives for these teams to stay on the Missouri side of the state line. But you had the chairman for the Jackson County legislature talk to Fox 4 yesterday and say, yeah, we're probably not getting these teams on a ballot this year.
John and Bria, our biggest question for the chair of the Jackson County legislature today was whether he thinks there will be a vote of the people in this county later this year.
I do not envision a vote for the Chiefs or Royals this year.
We followed that statement up from Legislative Chairman Deron McGee with why he doesn't think a vote will happen in 2025.
My position is that it's not about when the vote is that the work has been put in with the community, that feedback from the community is heard, and what they're going to do, how things are going to go, how money is going to be spent, what is their plan, and that this plan is not rushed. So if there is to be a vote, whether it's Chiefs only, Royals only, I don't envision a vote till next year.
McGee says the teams could go in April of next year, the primaries in August, or the midterm elections in November.
Deron McGee, chairman for the Jackson County legislature, telling you that, yeah, we need a plan. We need to know what exactly these teams want to do. And we don't have any idea what exactly they're interested in if they want to stay in Jackson County. So first off, it's nice for somebody to say that. I don't know Deron McGee well, but I'm glad somebody actually said, yeah, we'd like to see a plan at some point from you guys. Hello, can we get something here to work with before you guys decide, hey, here's when we want to be on the ballot to continue to get some money from the taxpayer. Okay, fine. When are you going to hold up your end of the bargain? When? Like, why do the politicians have to line up on your behalf before you at least give the people something to look at, something to work with? I mean, a location, for crying out loud, if you're the Kansas City Royals. My goodness. Instead, it's like everybody else do their part, and then when we're ready, we'll tell you some of what we might be interested in building or doing. At some point, you got to have some self-respect, and it seems like Deron McGee is at least saying that much, John, which I appreciate.
Yeah, it looks like you're holding the stick. Well, there's going to be a carrot at the end of the stick for you in a minute. Just wait. You know, you got to pass it, see what's in it. I'm glad we're beyond that now.
We are way beyond that, but that's a good analogy. Little Nancy Pelosi there that the Royals and Chiefs are stealing from. You got to give us everything you can give us, and then we might tell you, what we want to build at some point. If not, you'll just have to wait to see what goes up and where it goes up. That's how this is going to go, apparently. So Duron McGee saying the right thing there, and I appreciate him saying that. But it also goes to show you it's not like these teams had some plan lined up for Jackson County that they were set to announce by the end of June. They're not. I mean, I would be stunned. I would love to be wrong about this. I want to be wrong about this. But I would be stunned if we get anything when it comes to the team's plans and locations by the end of June, which was their self-imposed deadline. The only reason they cared about the end of June is because that's when the Star Bond offer expired. So they needed to say, hey, we're looking at the end of June because wink, wink, nod, nod. That's a self-imposed deadline. It was only a self-imposed deadline because that's when the leverage ended for them, pitting Kansas against Missouri.
Unless they pick Kansas. Then that could be a deadline for them.
Well, you're right. You're right. That's fair, Mark. If they pick Kansas, that is a deadline. They could roll out some big, beautiful renderings for the Royals in Overland Park, for the Chiefs out at the Legends, and that could happen in the next 20 days. You're right, Mark. You're right. I also could hit the lottery.
Yeah, probably optimistic of me.
Yeah, that may be. Because here's what I think ultimately is going to happen. I believe that the state of Kansas is not interested at this point in extending these Star Bonds. I don't think they want to feel like they're being played anymore by these teams. That was what I gathered from Ty Masterson, the Senate president, who was on the committee that would make this decision about a week ago. And Masterson's going to be back on the show at 8:50 this morning after Tirade Tuesday. I certainly don't think after Missouri passed its deal last week in the Senate, and assuming it passes the House this week, I don't see any way that Kansas extends its Star Bond offer. At least if it wants to have self-respect, it won't extend the Star Bond offer. But that doesn't mean that, I can't be proven wrong here, but I would be very surprised if the state of Kansas went along with this thing at this point in time, knowing how this has played out. But we'll obviously be watching it, have to see. 913-4087-957 is our studio line and our text line on KCMO Talk Radio. Now,
remember that lunch money you offered to lend me last month? I could use that now, right?
Oh,
That's
please.
kind of like that, where somebody makes a gracious offer in that moment, and you say, I'll pass. Come back later.
Yeah.
Hey, could I borrow that money?
Could I have that, please? Yeah. Buzz off, buddy. Okay, we're done. Yeah, we gave it a shot.
The limitations has expired.
Yep. But as some of you noted to me on X, on social media yesterday, that David Toland, who's the lieutenant governor in Kansas, there's speculation he is going to be Laura Kelly's handpicked successor to run for governor. He desperately wants to get one of these two teams here because it would look very good for him politically speaking. Can he get it done? Well, that remains to be seen. And right now, I would say the odds are against him. Now, speaking of Laura Kelly, she is getting quite a bit of heat yesterday for signing this Democrat Governors Association letter defending Gavin Newsom. Of course, Gavin Newsom catching a lot of heat right now because, well, the guy's the governor of the state, and these violent anti-ICE protests were escalating last night across L.A., in case you didn't see it. Well, there is no defending Gavin Newsom. And if you are a Democrat governor in a blue state, you would, in a red state, which Kansas is, voted for Trump by 15 points, 2 Republican U.S. senators, 3 out of 4 U.S. House members, of course, are Republicans. You would be insane to defend Gavin Newsom. But Laura Kelly, who is the chairwoman for the Democratic Governors Association, she signed this letter defending Gavin Newsom and his handling of the protests in L.A., calling his action, meaning the president's, an alarming abuse of power to utilize the National Guard. If you are just waking up, get on social media, keep streaming us on the KCMO Talk Radio app or listening on 95.7 FM. Go on your phone and look at some of the videos from last night in L.A. Like many of you, I was sleeping when these riots were getting to an apex last night. They were as violent as they have been yet over the last several days. I will share some on my X account at Pete Mundo. You can see them there. I mean, this is not getting better. Trump is being proven right here. Trump is winning the argument politically, and he's winning the argument and winning the debate on the ground. And every single day, Gavin Newsom and everybody who is standing up for him is looking worse every single day. So for Laura Kelly to stick her neck out for this guy, I know she's a lame duck, but in theory, she's going to have a handpicked candidate that she wants to continue her legacy for a third Democrat term in the state of Kansas. This is political suicide for that person, whoever she picks. And if Kansas Republicans and whoever the Kansas Republican gubernatorial candidate is doesn't utilize this to his or her advantage, they've got to get out of the political arena. They have no business running for office if they will not keep this letter that Laura Kelly signed top of mind defending Gavin Newsom. That should be the final nail in the coffin for anybody trying to succeed Laura Kelly, who assumingly they want to attach themselves to Laura Kelly. This has got to be game, set, match for them if they can utilize this effectively on the Republican side of the aisle in Kansas, which they haven't done all that well a job of. Let's be honest. Laura Kelly won 2 elections in this state for a reason. 913-4087-957. How could anybody defend Gavin Newsom? Well, Bill O'Reilly was here yesterday. If you missed it, it was later in the show. It is up on the podcast. But if you did not hear what O'Reilly had to say about Gavin Newsom and how big of a win this is for Donald Trump, well, one morning later, he's only being proven more right. And we have that audio next on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. 622, good morning. Happy Tuesday. Glad you're here on KCMO 95.7 FM. Bill O'Reilly was on the show yesterday. If you missed it, find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or it's right on the website, kcmotalkradio.com. You can find it there. And the plan, I booked Bill a week ago. I could not have imagined the news cycle playing out the way it did, was to talk to him about his trip to China and the presentation he gave to some of President Xi's top henchmen. But then, of course, we have to talk about Trump v. Elon and what's gone on there, and, of course, the L.A. riots. And O'Reilly went on to explain why the Democrats are just really hurting themselves politically once again in the way they've handled this, led by their governor, Gavin Newsom. What do they think they're going to get out of this?
Well, it's a continuation of the disintegration of the Democratic Party. That's all it is. You know, on my show tonight on the No Spin News, I'm going to use a bunch of sound bites of these people saying, yeah, it's okay. They did the same thing with George Floyd. You remember that, Pete? The same thing. Oh, yeah, burn it down. Fine. It's okay. Trump's the guy. Trump's at fault. Because the left wing of the Democratic Party, which is now 80% of the party, they don't want any constraints on illegal immigration. They like the open border. They don't want to kick anybody out, including criminals. They don't want to. And again, then people who are sane, who are, sitting home and watching, they go, we're not throwing in with these people. So I don't know where they think they're going to go, how they're going to reorganize the Democratic Party when it gets worse and worse and worse on the far left. Mm-hmm. So, again, that's a win for Trump. Not only does he bolster his credentials as a tough guy for the MAGA crew, but his opposition looks like irresponsible idiots. So he wins on both levels.
And in a weird way, doesn't this help Newsom in a Democratic primary, which he is clearly angling for in 2028?
Look, Republicans and conservatives should pray that Gavin Newsom is the nominee for the Democratic Party. They should be going to novenas, right, to pray that happens. Because that man will never be elected president of the United States. I mean, you could run Christiane Amanpour against him, and she'd win. That's how crazy he is. And everybody knows, they just know. They're not going to vote for him. So, again, unless the Democratic Party reorganizes, which I don't expect, because the big money, and that's what drives all politics, is on the far left and remains so.
So that is it. That was Bill O'Reilly yesterday here on KCMO. Once again, it's on the website. It's on the podcast. Find it wherever you get your podcasts. But O'Reilly breaking that down, saying this is basically a continuation of the disintegration of the Democratic Party. Think about what that means back here in Kansas. Now, I say Kansas and not Missouri because Missouri's ruby red right now, right? I mean, there's no one in elected statewide office in Missouri who is a Democrat. In Kansas, you have a Democrat governor who's won 2 straight terms and is going to have a hand-picked successor to try to make it a 3rd straight term. She just signs on to a letter from Gavin Newsom or on behalf of supporting Gavin Newsom and ripping Trump in the last 36 hours. If Kansas Republicans can't figure out a way to win this upcoming election in 2026 using this, they're clueless. Now, I put that up on X yesterday, and some people were critical, saying no one's going to remember this in November of 26. I disagree. It's like anything else in life. Will the right people remind you of it? First off, we remember the summer of love. You remember COVID masks and keeping kids out of schools, right? If the right nominee with the right team around him or her reminds the voters in Kansas that, oh, yeah, Laura Kelly signed a letter supporting Gavin Newsom during the LA riots around ICE raids, and she has and is throwing her full support behind fill in the blank Democrat at the top of the ticket in 26. If Kansas Republicans can't figure out a way to take advantage of that, they deserve to lose.
That should be 15 seconds of their copy in any commercial.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
When you're writing a commercial, don't care how many dogs you have.
Yeah,
none of that
exactly.
Stuff.
Please, don't care. Not interested. Don't care about, 7th generation this and dad was a farmer. It's like, okay, that's nice. That's all well and good. Not interested. Does nothing for me today. Does nothing for the state today, John. I'm not interested. I don't care.
You can go with the old Chris Farley Saturday Night Live thing. Remember that time? Exactly. Remember that time they shut down the schools?
Yes.
There you go.
Just do it. And then talk about dad being a farmer when you come on my show, okay? I'll give you some time. You can talk about granddad all you want. But when you got a 30-second commercial, make it count, all right? And hit them where they're most vulnerable. And Kansans are not going to be on board with a gubernatorial candidate supporting what's happening in L.A. right now and defending Gavin Newsom, who has been wrong on basically everything he's ever done in recent memory that he continues to blame Trump for. California wildfires, somehow that's Trump's fault. Empty reservoirs, somehow that's Trump's fault. $12 billion budget deficit, somehow that's Trump's fault. Riots in L.A., that's also Trump's fault. This guy doesn't take responsibility for anything that happens in his largest city. And we've got a leader in Kansas who is defending that. Insane. What a great line in Overland Park. And, of course, there's a lot of drama in Overland Park as to what the future holds for the Spring campus, the old Spring campus, now the Hesperia campus. Could that be a future home of the Kansas City Royals? I find it highly unlikely. But, of course, the drama continued last week when it was reported, I guess that was, 2 weeks ago now? Yeah, it was 2 weeks ago now, that it was first reported by the Kansas City Business Journal that a group affiliated with the Royals had bought the debt obligations of the Hesperia campus. They got a very good deal on it, but that, of course, increased the speculation that Royals ownership may be looking at that location for a future stadium, right? So has anyone actually gone to Overland Park to try to gauge their interest? And I don't just mean city council, what that would take from the city of Overland Park, but what about the residents? Is anyone interested in that? Here was some of the reporting from Fox 4 on this story.
But does the Royals' possible hunger for a stadium here match the public's appetite?
Taking away immediately land from businesses that are in that area and the lack of notice.
First, meet Jesse Rodriguez. He's got a unique vantage point. He works at Guitar Center right next to the proposed stadium site, but he also works in the Crossroads, and he knows why that last plan hit a sore note with voters.
We're kind of in the middle of Johnson County, so that can be hard. Traffic flow, movement, people getting their hotels that they'll need. I think we need to incentivize stadiums in our cities or our states, but I don't think we need to be walked over.
He's not alone. Former Overland Park councilman and current mayoral candidate Dr. Faris Farasati says a strong majority he's heard from are firmly against moving the stadium here. He goes on to say the area's design was never intended to accommodate such development. Additionally, it's noteworthy that while the OP administration is gathering feedback on a new logo, there appears to be no attempt to gauge public interest in having a stadium in that corridor. A current council member tells Fox 4 the city is far from a yes, citing traffic and rising housing costs.
That is a great line from Faris Farasati. Overland Park, and I get the emails from the media folks. I mean, they are just, all about our new logo. Let us know what you think about the new logo. Well, I don't live in Overland Park. We work here, obviously, and I guess we could give our opinions on their new logo. You know what no one really cares about? A city's logo. Maybe there's some pride with the Kansas City, Missouri city logo and the City of Fountains moniker that, of course, they lean into. But if you were to go to most Overland Park residents and give them a multiple choice exam, say, here are the 5 options for the Overland Park logo, what do you think the success rate would be on people picking the right logo? Maybe 1 in 10, and it would be 1 in 10 by mistake, because if you got a 1 in 5 shot, maybe it's like 20% guess it right because you got a 20% chance of getting it right. No one cares. I mean, no one knows and no one cares.
Nobody cares.
And that's just how it is. But they really want your input. Now, do they want your input on, continuing to jam in apartment complexes? Do they want your input on a Royal Stadium on the old Spring campus? Do they want your input on whether or not the budget should be up 40% in the last 8 years from about $300 million to $500 million? Not so much. Not really. Do they want your input on housing costs and property tax rates continuing, or property taxes, not property tax rates? They would tell you, the mill levy. Property taxes continue to go up? No, not so much. But hey, you want to help them with a new logo? Should this part of the logo be blue? Should it be green? Should it be red? What should be in this corner of the logo? They would love your input on that. The big things, the real things that matter to quality of life, they don't really want your input on. Now, Faris Farasati used to be on the council. He is running for mayor against Kurt Skoog. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he's got a great chance, because I don't think he does. And I'm just, listen, I like the man. I've met him a handful of times. I think he cares about Overland Park. He is a former Democrat who is now flipped to being a registered Republican. But I'm not sitting here saying he's got a great shot. I don't necessarily think that he does, because Kurt Skoog, listen, the reality is most people in Overland Park, based on a lot of the data that is out there, like living in Overland Park. So that's not something where they necessarily want to upend the status quo. And I think Overland Park is a great place. There's no doubt about it. I just don't want to see them continue to make mistakes that will ruin Overland Park. And that's the fear I have right now on some of the things that they're doing. And I don't know how you capitalize on that if you're Faris Farasati, when you've got an incumbent in that seat. 4 years ago when Mike Zinnigy made a great run at the Overland Park mayor's race, he came as close as you possibly will come on running on some of these issues that we talk about on a regular basis. But I do think that when it comes to a stadium in the Spring campus, if you were to poll most people in Overland Park on this, they would not be fans. Is the city interested in hearing that? Not as far as I can tell. Tesla opened up yesterday to start the week at $285 a share. It ended up the day at $308 a share. So that's a nice little uptick. And it started to really pick up steam, I would say middle, late afternoon. Why is that? Well, the president of the United States was asked about his relationship with Elon Musk, was asked about the future of Tesla and Starlink. And I'll tell you what, if Elon Musk was brought into the White House to just make Trump look less crazy, it worked brilliantly. Listen to how Trump responds. This is one of the more level-headed things that Trump has ever said when it comes to a feud that is still ongoing with a very prominent person. Here he is.
Are you going to get rid of the Tesla and the Starlink service that you have here at the White House?
No, I haven't heard that. I mean, I may move the Tesla around a little bit, but I don't think we'll be doing that with Starlink. It's a good service.
Where are you going to move it to? Move it around. What do you mean?
I have a lot of locations. I got so many locations that I don't know what to do with them all.
Did you ever see Elon Musk get physical with the Treasury Secretary?
No, I didn't.
And I tried to
They
ask...
did have an argument, but I didn't see a lot of physicality there.
And there was this New York Times report that he did not want to talk about, Elon Musk, that alleged that he, towards the end of his time in the White House, was blurring the lines between recreational use of drugs and medicinal. Do you think he ever had drugs here at the White House?
I really don't know. I don't think so. I hope not. Look, I wish him well. You understand. We had a good relationship, and I just wish him well. Very well, actually.
What are the odds? Had we been sitting here back in January, and we said, hey, before July 4th, this Trump-Elon Musk bromance is going to absolutely blow up. And that Trump is the one who's going to come off, frankly, as the far more mature person in this whole thing. There's no way the media would have projected this. There's no way they would have said, oh, yeah, it's of course Trump who's going to be the adult in the room. But he is. And it's not even close. I mean, you got reports from the Washington Post over the weekend, and that's what Peter Doocy of Fox News was asking about there, that Elon got into it with Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary. Bessent calls him a fraud, and Elon, bodies him with his shoulder, and Bessent took a swing at Elon. Trump says he didn't see any physical attacks, but he said he didn't see it. He didn't say it didn't happen. He said he didn't see it. So I don't know. I think from Elon's perspective, there was probably frustration because guess what? The federal government doesn't work like a private business does. There's good and bad to that. Things move colossally and incredibly slow, right? So he was probably frustrated with that, understandably. But Doge is still incredibly important to, I think, the future of saving this country from $37 trillion in debt. But Elon kind of lost it. And I can't think of anybody that Trump has played nice with and spoken highly of after Elon, frankly, went off the deep end at the end of last week with some of these accusations about Trump and, Epstein and the big, beautiful bill and all this stuff. And Trump's the guy who's taking the high road here. He's like, I'm not going to get rid of my Tesla. I'll keep it. Starlink's a good product. Trump looks like the adult in the room, and it's not even close. And usually when he's in these spats, he's happy to get down and dirty in the
Marco,
mud. Yes.
Ron DeSanctimonious.
Look at what's going on right now, Gavin Newsom. He loves getting in the mud. He loves a good fight. He's not taking the bait with Elon, which also tells me Trump doesn't get the credit for how he goes about some of these political battles. Everyone perceives them as just like, hey, he woke up in the middle of the night and wanted to send out a tweet or a Truth Social post, and there was no thought put into it. There was no strategy behind it. It was just Trump basically, shooting off at the hip, mouthing off whatever it might be. He hasn't done that with Elon. He hasn't. I think he sees value in part to keeping that relationship open to reigniting the bromance. Elon has suddenly, over the last couple of days on social media, had Trump's back on how he's handling L.A., and I think Trump's playing the long game here, and he's wise to play the long game here, John.
I was just thinking that I wonder if Trump's actually in bed by 10 and he's got Twitter where he pre-schedules stuff to go off at 3 in the morning just so it'll ding on somebody's nightstand.
Well, it's a good question, although our buddy Billy Long, former Missouri congressman who's now likely to be the next IRS director, Billy texted me last week and said that he got a congratulatory text from Trump at 1:30 in the morning after Billy got through an important committee hearing to become the next IRS director. He goes, I don't know when the guy sleeps. Now, is he awake at 1:30 a.m.? Or, is he just going to the bathroom at 1:30 a.m. and said, oh, yeah, I forgot to text Billy earlier today? I don't know. I don't know the answer.
He's looking up the national score. They're playing the Dodgers and the Padres, so he's looking for the West Coast score.
Yeah, Jack Caglione doing last night, right? So I don't know, but either way, this is a good development because I want Elon to stay in the mix here. He's better off going back to Tesla and doing his thing in the private sector, but I want Doge and that legacy to live on, and I want these guys to stay together because, frankly, the future of the country is better off when Trump and Elon are on the same team. Now, speaking of Trump trolling, this just came down on social media. Here he goes, quote, if I didn't send in the troops to Los Angeles the last 3 nights, that once beautiful and great city would be burning to the ground right now, much like the 25,000 houses burned to the ground in L.A. due to an incompetent governor and mayor. Incidentally, the much more difficult, time-consuming, and stringent federal permitting process is virtually complete on these houses, while the easy and simple city and state permits are disastrously bungled up and way behind schedule. They are a total mess and will be for a long time. People want to rebuild their houses. Call your incompetent governor and mayor. The federal permitting is done. This is brilliant. He is now using these L.A. riots and the attention on California and Los Angeles to remind the American people on how incompetent state and local leadership has been in the wake of the wildfire disasters from a few months ago. That has not been in the news in a long time. The permitting process, kind of like Kansas City, has been caught up in a lot of red tape and a lot of bureaucratic baloney. And bringing that back to the forefront of the conversation is pretty darn smart politics. It's easy for me to sit here and just say, hey, come on, wake up, smell the roses. Please don't go out there and commit political suicide by backing Gavin Newsom as these L.A. riots entered another night last night. That is a political loser for you. Don't do it. They wrapped up this morning at about 3:30 local time. So right when we were getting going at about 6 o'clock, the rioters were putting their heads on their pillows and starting their beauty sleep. They're probably deep into their REM sleep right now. They'll probably wake up around lunchtime today and get back at it again tonight. That would be my guess. But don't take my word for it. Take Stephen A. Smith's word for it. This guy is far from a staunch supporter of the President of the United States. But to his credit, as he continues to blend his sports background with his political interests, he's calling it like he sees it yesterday on his podcast.
Why the hell are you playing right into the hands of Donald Trump? Because I got news for you. On this particular issue, as it involves migrants, immigrants, those who are undocumented, dare we say illegal, in the United States of America, he's winning on this issue. There's a reason he won the popular vote. There's a reason he won the Electoral College vote. There's a reason he won every swing state. There are people within the United States of America that want our immigration crisis addressed and want the situation resolved somehow, some way. And the person that seems eager to bring a resolution to the table is President Donald Trump. Now, others may challenge that because they may say we had a bipartisan agreement when Joe Biden was in office that Donald Trump convinced the GOP to nix because he wanted to use it as an issue to favor him during the election. Well, damn it, it worked. It worked. And I got news for you, Governor Newsom. It's working now.
It's working now, says Stephen A. Smith. Now, his read on, of course, that air quotes bipartisan immigration bill from a couple of years ago was misrepresented there, but neither here nor there. The general commentary from Stephen A. Smith in that moment was spot on. He understands this is a political loser. So why are they doubling down on this? Because everything has to be Trump's fault in their eyes. Every single thing they have to turn into the fault of Donald Trump. Because they failed so colossally on the things that matter to everyday people. That's why Californians are fleeing left and right. They are seeing a population decrease for the first time in the state's history, despite the fact that they've got so much going for them, right? Location, beauty, weather. I mean, it is arguably, from that perspective, one of the best places on the planet you could possibly live. And people are leaving. Why would they do that? Because the politicians have failed the people. But if you don't want to take any responsibility for that, what do? You say, well, orange man bad. And despite the fact that their failures have gone across several different administrations at the federal level, I mean, the state has been failing for the most part going back to probably the 90s, which includes Clinton, Bush the younger, Obama, Trump 1.0, Biden, Trump again. Like, their failures as a state have crossed federal party lines. But when you don't want to take any responsibility for what's going on, when you want to just gaslight, this is what you do, right? When you want to say, hey, who do we blame for California basically becoming, in many cases, unlivable because of our awful public policies? We got to figure out someone to point the finger at. And we can't point the finger at ourselves. That wouldn't be politically wise. So, there's that guy in the White House that we don't like, so we'll do it that way. They have ignored and failed on so many of the major problems. I mean, traffic's just tip of the iceberg, right? But you can talk about the homeless crisis. You talk about the illegal immigration issue. Talk about the cost of living, the wildfires, all these things that now are coming back to the forefront that obviously the president of the United States has leaned into this morning on social media. And you can understand why this is a battle, politically speaking, that Trump is more than happy to have. Because as Stephen A. Smith said right there, it will be a winner for him and it will be a loser for you, Gavin Newsom. And Chris Cillizza, Washington Post, former Washington Post and CNN contributor, now at News Nation, he made the same point as well on his show yesterday.
They will not win on a conversation about classes in the streets over Donald Trump's immigration policies. It seems to me that Democrats are not thinking smartly about all of this. They need to understand, again, politics is about winning. Winning is about finding advantageous fights, picking them, and keeping them going. That's what Donald Trump is trying to do. You can like him or you can hate him, and I know a lot of people hate him, but he is very good at understanding that when there's a fight that he has the high ground on when it comes to public perception, he not only picks that fight, but he keeps picking it. He keeps jabbing at it.
And that's exactly what he's doing right now. And he did that yesterday as well. When what did he call the rioters from the White House lawn? What did he call them? Now take a listen to this. He called them insurrectionists. And the CNN panel went nuts.
What does your intel tell you about these people causing all the problems? Are they people ICE is trying to deport, or are they professional agitators?
The people that are causing the problem are professional agitators. They're insurrectionists. They're bad people. They should be in jail. Thank you.
They're insurrectionists. Now they're not. I don't think they're insurrectionists. They're idiot rioters. Same thing on January 6th, right? There was no plan from these people on January 6th to reverse the 2020 election. They were rioters is what they were. Same thing in LA the last couple of nights. They're not by definition insurrectionists. They're just rioters. But Trump is using that word against them because they're the ones who have brought that back into our everyday vocabulary, right? I mean, the insurrectionists. So now he's flipped the script on them. And while neither group to me by definition are insurrectionists, they're both rioters who really don't have any plan. They just want to cause chaos and disruption. It's smart politics to use that word against them. And listen to how the CNN panel reacts here.
It's like you queued him up, Priscilla. That word he used, they're insurrectionists. That I can't imagine that was an accident, because it seems as though that is the place that the White House is trying to get. And for the president, it's icing on the cake that he can do it in the state of California, because on a whole host of issues, he has had California, Gavin Newsom in particular, in his sights. The question he was asked was about Newsom daring Tom Homan to come and arrest Newsom. And the president responded, I would do it. And then he said, Gavin wants the publicity.
This is a very serious word that's being thrown around now, insurrection. That's a rebellion of the states or people in the states against the federal government. That is not something to be trifled with. If, for example, to your point, the president were to invoke the Insurrection Act, I think we would have yet another legal morass. It would be another instance of the way that the White House is trying to declare emergencies or insurrections in order to unlock vast powers which most presidents don't have access to. More broadly, the immigration issue, that is the track that we're going down with this administration.
It has been the track. Sorry, real quick, Vanu. I would say the Alien Enemies Act, which was the sweeping wartime authority that they use, it's only been used 3 times in major conflicts.
That is a very serious word, says the journalist with an accent, to use by the President of the United States. I use my air quotes when I say journalist. Very serious word to invoke insurrect. Really? There's no word that you guys have loved more of the last 4.5 years than that word right there. But how dare somebody use that phrase against you, right? You can't do that. No.
How dare you?
You cannot possibly use that word against them. There's only one insurrection that gets to be talked about in this nation's history. And you know which one that is. And neither of these, by definition to me, are insurrections. They're riots. But leaning into it, as Trump did, and using that word and throwing it back in their face is, once again, smart politics and redefining this entire conversation. He's winning this one in a big way right now, and that's why he's doubling down on it. And Californians and Newsom and Bass and all these people, they're not going to win this one. Stephen A. Smith was right about that when he brought it up on his show yesterday. We've got Tirade Tuesday in 20 minutes on KCMO. But coming up, we've been seeing reports on this morning. I have not shared it with you, but it looks like activists are organizing to have a protest against ICE tonight here in Kansas City. This is something that popped up early this morning. We've been doing some research on it, and one of our media friends in Kansas City has now picked up on this as well. What are the details? Where will it take place? We will share that with you coming up next on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. And we are streaming all morning long on the KCMO Talk Radio app. I got a text this morning from our buddy Vince Colonnese, who is the host of The Vince Show, coming up at 11 after Kevin Kietzman uncanceled here on KCMO. And he said, hey, Pete, just wanted to let you know that I was doing some research on the LA riot organizers, and I found this post on X about Kansas City tonight. And it was headlined, and the event tonight is called Shut Down ICE KC. It says Kansas City, Heart, Los Angeles, Tuesday. Martes, is that Tuesday in Spanish?
Yes.
Okay. I have not taken Spanish since 8th grade, so it's been a hot minute for me here. About, 20, 25 years at this point. June 10th, that's tonight. I know that much. That was in English. 7 to 9 p.m., Southwest Boulevard. It says here, join us in the crossroads to stand with Los Angeles and demand an end to ICE raids and detentions. We will not stay silent as our friends, families, neighbors, and coworkers are ripped from our communities. This is just such a crock, man. This is such a scam, is what this is. These are some of the worst people who are terrorizing communities who are getting arrested by ICE. I went through some of the prominent ICE arrests in Los Angeles last week, and I'll remind you on some of these folks here in a minute. But the notion that it's, Abuela getting picked up by ICE and tossed out of the country, that's not what's happening right now. They're going after the worst of the worst. Some of the people arrested last week, Rolando Veroncion Enriquez, a national of the Philippines, prior convictions for assault with intent to commit rape, burglary. Armando Ordaz, a Mexican national known gang member, convictions for battery, receiving stolen property, and theft in L.A. Victor Aguilar, a previously deported Mexican national known gang member, convictions for assault with a deadly weapon, possessing drug paraphernalia. Delfino Aguilar Martinez, Mexican national, conviction for assault with a deadly weapon causing great bodily injury in L.A. You have Jesus Alan Hernandez Morales. If I get any more names here, I'm just going to get tongue twisted. A Mexican national and aggravated felon with prior convictions for conspiracy to transport an illegal alien. These are not the cream of the crop, okay? They're not. So this is happening tonight, apparently. Tony's Kansas City also just reported this at Tony'sKansasCity.com. And I don't know how much of this is just being drummed up by local activists. The tweet has gotten, or the post on X has gotten certainly a lot of attention. Mark, did you share this from the KCMO Talk Radio account so people can find it there?
Yes.
Okay. And did you properly tag KC Police and maybe the FBI?
I did so.
Okay.
I can do that.
You can do that. Good. Please do that. Tony's Kansas City writing here in the last few minutes. The West Side is traditionally Kansas City's working class enclave where many of the local Latino community trace their roots back more than 100 years. The Crossroads is an up-and-coming artistic community that's home to refurbished old buildings with epic rents and a lot of creative small businesses and coffee shops where young people and the young at heart hang out. He says here, but make no mistake, agree or disagree with this protest against MAGA, this mislabeling amid an uprising is an important sign that they don't know much about the community they're attempting to organize. More importantly, the people who reside or have roots in this community can easily see through their rhetoric. Good job by Tony. So this is now what we are going to be potentially seeing tonight in Kansas City. I don't know who's organizing it. I don't know how well funded it is. But I hope that the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department is going to be on it. I'm sure they're aware of this. If not, they hopefully saw Mark's post on the KCMO Talk Radio X account, and they'll learn a little bit more about what's going on tonight that way. But you know what? We're just doing our civic duty here and alerting law enforcement to what might be happening tonight in Kansas City, John. That's all we can do.
It's real easy to trip them up with flashcards that say Flum, Quivira, Olathe. They won't get those, right?
No, they won't. Maybe we can tell them about Black Bob and, you know, try to insinuate that that's something that might be worth protesting as well while they're at it.
Is it Plaza or Plaza? Warnell or Warnell?
Oh, man. So we'll keep an eye on this tonight. Either of you guys want to volunteer to go down to Southwest Boulevard? Or, John, do you have nothing to wear again to an event like this?
Oh, I think I can blend in. I've got stuff to blend in that neighborhood. I've been down there before. A couple of great places to eat, actually.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
See, that's going down there for Taco Tuesday, John.
Well, then, hopefully they're not going to tear up the neighborhood because I like where I go to eat.
Yeah.
You know? Come on, man.
I mean, these poor folks, they got enough on their plate, right? You got the owner of Manny's ticked off. He can only turn over the table once because of crime right now on Southwest Boulevard and sideshows. And now he's got to deal with this. This is a different kind of sideshow potentially tonight in Kansas City.
Exactly.
What a mess. Absolute mess. Mayor Lucas has responded to my post on X this morning. So Mayor Lucas writing yesterday on X, L.A. Mayor Karen Bass is one of our country's strongest local leaders. He adds she, LAPD, and the LA County Sheriff's Office were managing a local dispute until national figures ignited a firestorm, misusing the National Guard and the bully pulpit of the presidency to exacerbate divides. Anyone worried about the residents of Los Angeles should defer to the judgment of the governor, mayor, and local leaders. I'll save my lectures not for those on the ground, but those fueling dissension from positions in our nation's capital where they should do better. Okay. All right. Yeah. All right.
Show some RESPICT.
Yeah. So this morning I wrote here, don't do it, Mr. Mayor. Don't do it. I bet yesterday on KCMO he would wisely sit this one out. I was wrong. Well, the mayor has responded, and Let me share that response with you. I had it here right in front of me, but I got a lot of responses to that response. All right, here he goes. I never thought standing with and supporting LAPD and the LA County Sheriff would be the woke position. Also, he writes here, your political read is usually right, but I am 100% local control on public safety issues, as you might imagine. Not so fast, my friend, in the words of Lee Corso. Not so fast. LAPD Chief McConnell said this 2 nights ago.
We are overwhelmed as far as the number of people out there engaged in this type of activity.
We are overwhelmed. You tell me. You taking the words of the LAPD chief or the huckster, grifter, Mayor Karen Bass?